Apple just leaked something and it's way bigger than new color, new iPhone. The iPhone 18 Pro is reportedly launching in September 2026, and Apple's main headline shade is a brand new finish called Dark Cherry, a deep, wine-toned red that's being positioned as the full replacement for last year's polarizing cosmic orange. On paper, that sounds like a simple color swap. In reality, this leak reveals a lot more. A camera-first upgrade, a bold shift in Apple's release strategy, and at least one decision that's going to annoy a lot of longtime iPhone Pro users. Let's start with Dark Cherry, because the internet has already gotten it slightly wrong. Most leaks have called it dark red, which is technically true but also kind of misleading. According to supply chain reports, Apple has been explicitly developing a dark cherry finish with a hue closer to red wine than bright candy red. Think less product red intensity and more a glass of Merlot poured into a titanium frame. The internal reference reportedly lines up with Pantone 6276, which is a very specific, very deliberate shade. Apple doesn't throw darts at a color wheel. Every Pro finish is tuned to look premium both in person and in marketing. Dark Cherry is designed to feel restrained and luxurious while still being visually distinct, a sharp pivot away from the divisive cosmic orange. In 2024, we had Desert Titanium. In 2025, Cosmic Orange split opinions so hard, it might as well have been a social experiment. Dark Cherry feels like Apple quietly reading the room and dialing things back without becoming boring. So what does the full iPhone 18 Pro color lineup look like based on current leaks? Right now, supply chain sources point to 4 options in development for the iPhone 18 Pro and iPhone 18 Pro Max. A light blue, similar to the current mist blue on iPhone 17 Dark Cherry, the new Hero color a dark gray that's almost indistinguishable. From Space Black A Classic, bright silver dark gray is reportedly based on Pantone 426C, which is effectively a near black shade of gray. Translation: Apple removed black from the label, nudged the color a fraction of a shade lighter, and rebranded it as dark gray. That is peak Apple. It will probably look like space black at a glance, just with slightly more depth and less pure black intensity. Here's the part that's going to frustrate people. There is still no true black option. Reliable Weibo leaker Instant Digital claims that, for the second year in a row, the Pro lineup will skip black entirely. The iPhone 17 Pro dropped black, and the iPhone 18 Pro reportedly continues that trend. For a color that's been a staple of the Pro line for years, 2 generations without it is a pretty loud signal. Why would Apple do that? Because the company appears to be prioritizing colors that photograph more distinctly in marketing, press shots, and social campaigns. Subtle differences between very dark gray and black might not matter to owners, but they matter to how devices pop on billboards and websites. In other words, Apple seems willing to kill off your favorite neutral finish so the lineup looks cleaner and more differentiated in photos. Not the kind of courage people were asking for. Color is the fun headline. The real story is what's happening to the hardware and design. Multiple leaks suggest Apple is working on shrinking the dynamic island by moving more Face ID components under the display. The target is about a 35% reduction in size compared to the iPhone 17 Pro. A cut that large isn't a minor tweak. It would change how the phone looks every single time you unlock it. With a smaller dynamic island, you'd get more usable screen real estate, especially when live activities aren't active. That's one of those upgrades you don't need to be a tech nerd to notice. But there's a catch. This change is not fully locked in. Earlier reports from Digital Chat Station on Weibo indicated that Apple had at least considered reusing the existing iPhone 17 series front panel molds, which would mean keeping the current dynamic island size. Right now, both scenarios are still reportedly on the table internally. Either Apple ships a 35% smaller island via partial under-display Face ID, or it plays it safe and sticks with the design from last year. That means the biggest potential. Design change of the iPhone 18 Pro generation is genuinely still in flux. The phone hasn't entered mass production yet, so Apple technically has time to choose. Good to know before you fall in love with a render that might never leave the prototype lab. On the back, Apple is being more conservative. The rectangular camera plateau that's defined recent Pro models is expected to stay. However, there are whispers of small but meaningful refinements to the materials and detailing. One example, the visible gap between the glass covering the camera lenses and the surrounding titanium frame is reportedly being reduced. Bringing those surfaces closer together creates a more seamless, flush rear finish, the kind of craftsmanship upgrade that doesn't scream for attention in photos, but absolutely improves how the phone looks and feels in the hand. It's not flashy, but it is the kind of quiet refinement Apple tends to obsess over. Now, the most important technical change for 2026 cameras. This is shaping up to be a camera-first year for the Pro line, and the headline upgrade is something iPhones have never had before, a variable aperture main camera. According to a report from MacRumors in April, production for a variable aperture module has already begun. That's a key distinction. This isn't a vague, maybe Apple is testing it in a lab rumor. This is a supply chain signal that hardware for a variable aperture system is physically being built. Here's why that matters. Today, every iPhone ships with a fixed aperture on its main camera. That means the lens is always open to the same size regardless of lighting. In low light, the phone compensates with software tricks, longer exposure, and computational photography. In bright light, it leans on shutter speed and processing again. With variable aperture, the camera can mechanically widen or narrow the opening in front of the sensor, just like a dedicated camera lens. On the iPhone 18 Pro and 18 Pro Max, the 48-megapixel Fusion main camera is rumored to support this variable aperture system. In practical terms, that means, in low light, the aperture can open wider to pull in more light, reducing noise and improving detail. In bright daylight, the aperture can close down to avoid overexposure and improve sharpness and depth of field control. This isn't just a spec sheet bullet point. In complex lighting, think city streets at night, indoor scenes with windows, concerts, sunsets, a variable aperture camera can produce visibly different, more controlled images than a fixed aperture system. It's one of those upgrades that directly shows up in the photos you take, not just in the marketing copy. Beyond the camera, several core hardware jumps are lining up as likely or very likely for the iPhone 18 Pro, a new A20 Pro chip. Built on a 2nm process A battery capacity reportedly exceeding $5,000 may connectivity upgrades, including Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 6, and a new C2 modem and enhanced 48-megapixel Fusion main camera and a higher resolution front-facing camera leaker digital chat station has called out 3 of these as confirmed focus points. The 2nm A20 Pro chip, a larger battery, and the camera. Aperture changes. Moving from a 3nm to a 2nm process is a major step in chip manufacturing. In real-world use, that should translate into faster performance, better energy efficiency, and potentially longer battery life at similar or even lower power draw. Pair that with a battery reportedly north of $5,000 and you're looking at what could be the biggest endurance bump an iPhone Pro has seen in years, especially under heavy workloads like gaming, 4K video capture, and 5G. On the connectivity side, Wi-Fi 7 support and Bluetooth 6 via Apple's N2 wireless chip are both widely rumored. Wi-Fi 7 brings higher throughput, lower latency, and better stability in congested environments. Bluetooth 6 will likely focus on reliability and efficiency for wearables and audio accessories. The C2 modem, succeeding today's C1, is expected to offer stronger signal performance, more efficient power consumption, and improved satellite connectivity. That's the kind of upgrade you only notice when things stop dropping out in places they used to. Front-facing camera hardware also looks set for a jump. All iPhone 18 models, not just the Pros, are rumored to move from an 18-megapixel selfie camera to a 24-megapixel sensor. That's roughly a 33% resolution increase and should benefit FaceTime, social content, and portrait selfies, especially when paired with Apple's image processing.